All right. Stream says we're on, but I don't see anything right now. So let me
We
know.
are. We're all good. We're on.
Okay, so you can see us and everything. Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. Let's get going. Let's get going, everyone. Welcome. We're the Winter Hill Warriors. I'm Chenny, joined by my boy Damon.
Yep.
We are gonna break down an excellent, excellent episode of the Penguin that just dropped, episode 4, and this one dove into Sofia's background, and it was fucking crazy to say the least. Damon, any thoughts on this before we break this down and give our live reactions?
Yeah. To go off what you just said, incredible episode. And I think the show's overall choice to go with more realism works here because you got some non conventional central characters, right? You have Oz, you got Sophia, and you have Vic, a sidekick, a villain with a bad rep, and an ex Arkham inmate who has mob ties. These are not really sympathetic characters. But the fact that we've delved into such realism here really like makes us appreciate, sympathize, empathize with, it humanizes the hell out of these characters. This was such a raw episode for Sophia, but dude, it was excellent.
Yeah, yeah. So let's just get started. We're just gonna go scene by scene, break down what we thought, what our reactions were, just things that happened. So we ended last episode with Nadia and her goons pulling up on Oz and Sophia right after they had closed a deal with the head of the triads. I think his name was like Fung something. I forget his fucking name. Do you remember his name?
Um, Link, I remember Link Sai as the
Yeah,
underling.
Manny Pacquiao. Whatever. They closed the deal. Vic comes back and rescues them, but we kind of see what actually happened from Oz's perspective. So Nadia pulls up, down on your knees. They got guns pointed at them. They got them execution style, and Nadia calls Oz out for disrespecting her family, the Maroney family, and she has found out about the new drug that they're making and selling called Bliss. And Oz immediately is just like, "Hey, I was working for you guys. Don't worry about it. I'm just trying. I'm just trying to get the drugs in your hands. I'm gonna backstab Sophia anyways." Basically, that's what Oz says. He says, "Look, I was just making sure that you guys had the drugs on hand." Now, this is the first time that Sophia is finding out about this, so she's like, "What the fuck is going on, Oz? Like, what are you talking about?" And Nadia knows that this is like that. Obviously, Sophia doesn't know that Oz has been betraying her this entire time, and Nadia lets it slip that Oz is most likely the one that killed Alberto. So Sophia realizes right away and stares at Oz with murderous intent, and Oz is just begging for his life. Nadia, listen to me, blah blah blah. You just gotta trust me. But at that moment, that's when our boy Vic comes back, fucking just crushes that dude, kills him on sight. I'm guessing, just crushes him in half, causes enough of a commotion where Oz is able to escape. Nadia and them aren't actually trying to kill Sophia at this moment. And either way, like the whole mission has gone bad. It's there's too much smoke here. So they jump in the van or the SUV and they get out of there. So Sophia's kind of left to her own devices. She shares this look with Oz. Look at this fucking look by Oz. But shares this
Just
look
like utterly dismissive.
so dismissive, just feels absolutely zero remorse for what he's doing. And she then has another panic attack and calls the doc Julian Rush and asks for help. And that is the opening scene. Well, the first thing she says to Julian is it was Oz. Oz was the one who killed Alberto and all of that. So and then she passes out just from the trauma and the anxiety. And then we enter into the flashback season. But before we go into flashback mode, talk to me, man.
So the leader of the triad's name was Feng Zhao, I believe. And Oz, we love Oz, but this was not his finest moment. When Sophia shoots him that look that you mentioned, it's almost like watching a caged animal try and plead its way out of getting trapped, where he's like, no, no, you gotta believe me. He's just get caught playing both sides at the worst possible time. We see his true colors, and you know that that bridge with him and Sophia is infinitely burned. Because before we weren't really sure what convo went down while Vic was riding the Maz throughout. Now we know what was happening, and it's pretty bad for us. It's not going to work out with these two.
Yeah, Nadia, you gotta listen to me. Not great. Now we jump into this episode's the flashbacks in this episode. So now we jump into the flashbacks in these episodes and we get Sofia's backstory. This is where the episode gets fucking great. So we first flashback to what I believe is 10 years ago, right? This is 10 years ago. Sofia has not been sent to Arkham yet. I'm guessing she's like 21, 22 at this point, and she's at this foundation, and I believe the foundation is called the Isabella Falcone Foundation, which is her mom's name. So we learn that this foundation was actually started by Sofia and her dad Carmine to help out women with depression, right? Because apparently Sofia's mother had depression and killed herself via hanging when Sofia was 9. So pretty tough fucking backstory for Sofia, losing her mother at such a young age. And she gives this speech basically saying, this is what happened to my mom. That's why we care so much about this. This is what it's all about. And appreciate everyone for the support, right? Like, we're saving lives out here. So it's all cheery, all good. And we see a younger Oz pull up to her and give her props on the speech. And this is when Oz was Sofia's driver. And at this point in time, they seem to have a good relationship. And Oz seems to really look out for her. And what's it called? It doesn't seem like Oz is on the radar of her father at all. So he's just a young driver, like a henchman of no consequence. And he makes a comment where he says that that Sofia's job essentially is better than some jobs, right? Hinting that his own job kind of sucks. And Sofia's like, yeah, like driving me around. But we see that young Sofia is down to earth because before Oz can even really defend himself, Sofia says, obviously driving me around is a shitty job. But because you're a man in this world, you got a chance to get a promotion and you deserve better. So pretty genuine relationship between these two. And I will actually take a pause before we are introduced to Summer Gleeson because there's a lot right there.
There is a bunch. And like you said, seeing that relationship, I liked it because you get more clarity as to what they were before we have all this mess go on. She goes into Arkham, and Oz clearly has some pretty tough years on him because even though he looks very similar now, he just looks more full of life back then, if that makes sense. They were super agreeable toward each other. They understand each other. They're still on the outside looking in because, like you said, Oz isn't really on the radar. Sofia is dismissed as a woman in her family. So it's like, that's the angle that we're getting at here. I was not expecting the flashback to immediately focus on Sofia hosting a gala for a charity based on who we know her as in the present. But the family history of mental illness is definitely something to take note of because I think that serves as the background and the launch pad for pretty much the rest of what goes down here.
Yeah. Yep. That's a good call on the mental illness thing because clearly Carmine is also mentally ill.
He's got something, man.
Yeah.
Although, really, we'll get more on this later. But great follow up from the Batman, like when they had John Turturro, the guy that they used to play him this time around. It was very John Turturro like.
I was wondering if they were actually going to pull out John Turturro, and I was going to get real amped up. But then once I heard him speak, I was like, okay, yeah, obviously they didn't get like the guy, but still close enough, honestly. Yeah. Pretty good. It's like a Michael Jackson impersonator.
Yeah.
All right. So as Sofia is getting ready to leave, she is stopped by this woman named Summer Gleeson. Now, Sofia at this point doesn't know that Summer is a reporter for the Gotham Gazette. But Summer introduces herself to Sofia and then says, look, what you're doing is impressive, but you can do more. You're not doing enough. And recently there was a woman named Yolanda Jones. She committed suicide by hanging. In fact, a bunch of women have actually been dying the same way. So now all of a sudden this conversation is getting a little bit eerie. And she actually says these murders, not murders at this time, these apparent suicides have been going on for the better part of the last decade. And it's a very similar death to Sofia's mother. And this woman, Summer Gleeson, knows about how Sofia's mom died. So she clearly has been doing a little bit of research on Sofia's backstory. This spooks Sofia, and now Sofia is all ears, right? And Summer says, look, all of these women had something in common. They all worked at establishments owned by your father, right? Yolanda worked at the Iceberg Lounge, which we know that Penguin eventually runs. Or actually, I should say Oz. He doesn't want to be called Penguin. But yeah, so we got that. Now, Sophia's like, what organization are you with again? And that's when Summer gives her card, and Sophia finds out that she is part of the press. And obviously, Sophia's family is in organized crime, so they don't talk to the press, right? So Sophia's like, I can't talk to the press. I got to go. Oz has her back and says, hey, back off, lady. She don't want to talk to you. And they're on their merry way. But before Sophia leaves, Summer looks at Sophia and says, look, call me, whatever. You could help these women. These women need to be helped. And I'm going to pause there before they drive off if there's stuff you want to say.
Yeah, that was a pretty good Oz impersonation. I got to hand it to you.
Hey, I'm a bad fucking person.
Uh, I like that we get the intro to the big case that's been going down, and like we mentioned with the mental illness connection, the connection to Sophia's own mother, how she died via a hanging, which adds a whole new layer because spoiler alert, we know that she's going to get this all pinned on her, which is even more insulting when you look back on it.
Yeah, absolutely fucking heinous. Okay, so let me jump back here. So on the drive away, Oz actually, he's a little bit worried about Sophia because she looks shaken up. So he asks her if she's okay, and Sophia ends up having another flashback. So this is from 10 years prior, but this Sophia has a flashback, to when she was 9, and this is when she discovered her mom. Well, she was okay. So she's 9-year-old Sophia. She's playing hide and seek with her brother Alberto, and then she comes across her mom's dead body hanging from the ceiling. So very, very traumatic thing for a 9-year-old to see. And then it cuts to that later on that day/night, and they are having dinner. So now we see Carmine Falcone. I think it's Falcone, so I'm gonna start saying Carmine Falcone. Mainly because I was watching a Cosmonaut video and he said Falcone is the right way to pronounce it. So I fuck with Cosmonaut. I'm just going to call it Falcone, but I really don't give a fuck. All right, so we got Alberto on the side. We got Carmine. God, he does look like John Turturro. And we got Sofia. So they're having dinner, and basically the dynamic of this is Alberto is the son who's supposed to take over because he's the man, but clearly he's not detail oriented. He's not really fit to lead the family business, and Carmine can see that, and he even calls Alberto out. It actually does seem like Sofia is Carmine's favorite, and he says that Sofia is reliable and you're such a fool. And he then has a sip of his wine and is like, hey, I gotta go. So Alberto leaves dinner, not doing much to help his image. And as Alberto leaves, Carmine's kind of talking to Sofia, and it's just kind of like, yeah, he's not like us, Your brother, he's kind of a fool. Next weekend, I think it's his birthday, right? It's Carmine's birthday next weekend, so he just says, look, I can't have your brother embarrassing me, embarrassing himself. And Sofia says, look, I'll make sure that he's not being a fucking asshole. And then Carmine drops a bomb on Sofia, right? He says, look, I know that family tradition has the son taking over, but I think it's time to break with tradition. I want you to take over the business. And Sofia's down. She's very down to take over the business, but there's something that's been on her mind. And she says, look, there's just one thing I'm thinking about. And Carmine's like, what is it? And Sofia asks about her mom. And she says, I don't remember her being sick. So that's fucking crazy, right? This woman apparently killed herself because of depression. But Sofia's like, I don't ever remember mom being depressed. And Carmine, immediately his expression changes. And he tells Sofia, look, your mom was really good at hiding it. She was stubborn. I tried to get her help and stuff. I miss her too, baby. It sucks that those things happened. But those things really upset me. So why do you keep bringing up these things? These things upset me so much.
Quite a left turn.
Yeah, it got so fucking sinister. So then Sofia realizes that tensions are high. So she goes, look, I'm just wondering, but either way, you haven't told me what you want for your birthday. This gets Carmine to soften up a bit. And he goes, anything you get me, I'm going to enjoy. So we are going to pause there.
Yeah, Carmine, he starts off chill, but then he's just a bit of an asshole, and then it gets to a whole different dimension here. I wasn't anticipating him seeing Sophia as the preferred heir or sibling. Like, him going Viserys Targaryen was not on my episode 4 bingo card, but it makes sense when we know that Alberto is definitely just not a serious candidate at this point. They even give him like the sniff when he's at the table to kind of foreshadow what he might be into.
Oh, yeah,
But
yeah, I like that.
yeah, like he just like they're coloring him like that. Seems like she's barking up the wrong tree though with these allegations that she's trying to raise based on Carmine's cold, piercing gaze. When he talks about how the mom refused his help, that was kind of tough. Why would you do this now? Picking away at old wounds? You know it upsets me. It's it's like you went to the store for John Turturro and you asked for it, but your mom said like, no, we're gonna go with the other version instead of like cinnamon toast crunch. It's like cinnamon squares.
Yeah,
But he does a
yeah.
pretty good job at it.
He's RC
However,
Cola, but he's damn good at it.
yes,
Respect.
exactly. It tastes good. There's definitely something going down here. We just don't know what it is.
Yes. So very sinister portrayal. I'd love to find out the name of this actor because he now I got to give him credit. Like we're not shitting on him. We genuinely think he did a pretty solid impression of John Turturro, but it is just fucking funny.
Yeah,
You gotta admit it's funny. It's almost like the Patriots show on FX where they got one of Gronk's boys to play him.
yeah. Oh my god, dude. It's his name is Mark Strong. Do you remember the Kingsman movies?
Yes.
He was Merlin.
Oh my god.
Wow.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Respect.
Respect. Picking away at old wounds. All right, so next scene, we actually see Sofia and Alberto kind of chilling in the back seat. I think Sofia's kind of watching, or she's asking Alberto if their father is gonna like the gift that she's gonna get him, which is some watch, right? And Alberto actually makes a joke that he's the favorite, and then he also calls Oz the Penguin in a derogatory manner, and Sofia actually stands up for Oz, and Alberto's like, all right, I gotta go. But as he's leaving, Sofia says, look, has Dad ever had relationships with the girls that are working at 44 Below? Now, 44 Below is that VIP area of Iceberg Lounge, right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So Sophia's clearly been thinking about these women that Summer Gleeson mentioned, these women who all worked for her father in some capacity, whether it was none of them worked directly for him, but they all worked at establishments that he owned, and she can't stop thinking about it. So now she's asking Alberto if did Daddy ever hang out with some of these girls, right? And Alberto's like, look, we can't be thinking about our dad's love life, right? Why do you even care? He doesn't talk about it much, and Sophia just goes, look, just tell me what you know. And then Sophia also is like, or actually, yeah, she says that, and then Alberto just kind of brushes it off, right? Like he knows a little bit more than her, but he ultimately says, look, we got a good life. Let's not worry about our father and the family business. They both kind of know what the deal is. And that answer doesn't satisfy Sophia. So she starts looking at the card that Summer Gleeson had given her, and she's thinking about making the call. And Oz himself is a little bit worried by all of this as well. I'm going to pause before we jump to the meeting with Summer Gleeson.
Yeah, they both know what's going on. Sophia is just a little more naive, and this is way different than what you're used to seeing. Because for her to have these combos out in the open, to trust all this dialogue going on around Oz and not really feeling anything amiss is kind of unlike her, as we know her in the present. We also see that Alberto has always been a bit of an asshole to Oz, the way that he's referring to him as like, your penguin's gonna have to clean this up. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus, dude, like, what are we doing here? But Sophia finally realizing her dad might be a bit of a dog in some ways, and maybe much worse than that. You never know.
Right. It's one thing to be a dog. It's another thing to be a murderous dog. But yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those get put down.
Those get put down. And it is kind of, I'm glad you brought this up because it is kind of crazy when fucking Alberto just spills his drink in the car and then says, yeah, like get your penguin to clean it up. That's outrageous. Oz murdering Alberto was a long time coming.
I get it. You get it, you know?
Yeah. So Let's now jump to the meeting with Summer Gleeson. They meet under these train tracks. Another just awesome scene of just Gotham at night, just very, very dark. They got this orange tint. And they're getting right to it, right? So Summer is showing Sofia, here's all of the evidence that I actually have that indicates that these apparent suicides are not really suicides. So she has all of these documents on these women, and the thing is, these women have necks on their mark that could suggest some hanging, but once you dive a little bit deeper, it seems like they were actually strangled by someone manually, right? So basically, someone just strangled them with their bare hands. They all had blood on their hands, which indicates that they were fighting back, right? So if you're strangling someone to death and you're crushing their throat, which is, oh God, that's such a vivid fucking image, blood's gonna kind of be around your neck, and these women are obviously clawing at the hands of that are wrapped around their neck. So it's just going to be messy, and they're going to have marks on their fingers indicating that they were fighting. And Sofia then immediately has another flashback, right? And I think in that flashback, she remembers seeing that her mom, when she was hanging from the ceiling, had marks on her nails, right? Bloody marks all around her nails. And then we kind of see the rest of the flashback play out, which is moments after finding her mom hanging from the ceiling. Carmine comes in and is like, "Oh no, no, Sofia is such a terrible sight." And she actually notices that there were marks, bloody marks on Carmine's hands as well. So the evidence is fucking damning, but and Sofia immediately knows, okay, yeah, like my father killed my mom, and he probably killed a bunch of these women as well. And Summer's like, okay, what's going on? And Sofia immediately goes from nearly working with Summer, right? Because actually, one thing I forgot to mention, Summer, like before this flashback, as Summer was giving the evidence to Sofia, Summer says, "Can you wear a wire and go to the 44 below and just see what your dad says?" And Sophia's like, "I'm not about to wear a wire on my dad." And Summer says, "Fine, just get records from 44 below on the women working there." They have records on women working at Iceberg Lounge, right? Like that's what it's implied. But the women who are working at 44 below are almost like sleeper type of club girls, right? Like,
Yeah.
not a lot of records on them. So Summer's just like, look, get records on these women, and so we can kind of like track where everybody is and what's happening to them, right? And then Sofia has that flashback. After that flashback, she realizes, yes, my dad murdered my mom, and he murdered a ton of other women as well. He is a fucking monster. But she kind of weighs everything, and she's like, you know what? I can't work with you. I can't work with you. That's all you have. That's not enough evidence, and I'm not supposed to talk to press. These are just conspiracy theories, and you don't know shit about my father. So she storms off. Well, she also threatens Summer and then storms off, but she knows the truth. And then while she's in the car, Oz, who's been present for all of this, or at least he's been waiting in the car, he kind of tells her, look, you shouldn't really talk to the press. Your father said not to do that. People are going to start getting ideas saying you talk to the press. And Sofia tells Oz to stop talking and says, I don't care what you think, no one does, which is a hurtful thing to say because Oz is genuinely trying to give advice. And we don't know if this is what prompted Oz to eventually do what he did. Maybe you have a take on that, but that is the meeting with Summer Gleeson. I'm going to pause there if you want to break a lot of this down.
Yeah. I think that we all know, just based on previous episodes, that Oz betrays Sofia in some kind of way, though we haven't reviewed it yet. But this is the moment, I think, where he puts it together that Sofia ultimately is going to treat him the way that everybody else does when she's not happy. And I think her vindictive side coming out when she snaps at Oz and snaps at Summer is her main defense mechanism. We've seen her do it in the present day. We're going to see her do it again in this episode, but it's what she can resort to when the trauma of the past and like the insecurities creep up on her, just like a way to lash out and get even. But the flashback in general was so cold, man. The mom's nails, the close up on those, so you know that she died in a struggle, was crazy. And then Carmine keeping the sunglasses on and even adjusting them so you can never get a real read on him. It's like a poker player wearing the sunglasses inside, but like you're talking to your daughter after she just saw her mom like hung. That's so insane the way you think about it like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but Oz does have a point too, though, when he's saying don't go to the press. Like if your dad is a mob boss, you can't you just can't talk to reporters. Like, I'm sorry. Even no matter what happened, like you're expecting a bad reaction here. You've just never seen any of that take place in any kind of mob TV show, any kind of crime movie. You just don't go to the press when you're in the family.
Yep. It's always going to end up poorly. So we then jump to the party, right? So this is Carmine's birthday party, and we see Carla again. This is Sofia's cousin. So we had seen Carla in previous episodes, but this is when they were 10 years younger. So they seem to have a really good relationship at this point, and it's, whatever. None of these bad things have happened yet. And then in the middle of this, Oz pulls up and he's in a nice suit, and Sofia comments on it, and then Oz says, "Look, your father wants to see you." And Sofia goes and meets with Carmine, and Carmine immediately says, "Look, why didn't you tell me you met with a reporter?" So Oz snitched, told Carmine about everything. This is not good. So Sofia tries to brush it off and says, "Look, the reporter tried to talk to me, and I told her to fuck off," which is true. That is what happened. And then also, Carmine mentions Kenzie. That officer was in the Batman, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we see him again pop up in Batman.
Right. He was like that detective or whatever who was kind of crooked and was one of the bodyguards. I just remember that name. So
Yes.
Carmen says, "Look, I spoke to Kenzie, and yes, so Officer Kenzie or Detective Kenzie, whatever." He gives Carmine the lowdown that Summer Gleeson, the reporter with the Gotham Gazette, has been working with the police, and there's an open murder investigation on Carmine. So Carmine then tells Sofia, "Look, they're trying to destroy me. Why didn't you come to me first? Do you think I did all of these things? This is going to ruin everything that we have." And Sofia then brings up the fact that he had scratches on his hands the day that their mom died. But Sofia says, "Look, I know they weren't from her. It must have been something else. So if she didn't say that, he probably would have let all of this go, right?
Yeah. I
Right.
think so. I think that this is the moment where they could have got swept under the rug, but then she knows what really went down in the back of her mind, and she's not going to ignore that.
Right. Because when he first says, "Why didn't you come to me when the reporter came up to you?" Her response to Carmine is, "Well, I just didn't want to worry you about this," which is a fair response. And Carmine's expressing disappointment, and he kind of guilt trips her, says, "Look, you were supposed to be better than this, and now he kind of hints that I can't make you the successor and all these things." But still, like you said, if it feels like Sofia just apologized profusely and denied everything and said, "No, you're good, you're innocent," Carmine probably would have let it go. But once she brings up the fact that she noticed that he had blood on his hands and scratches and all of that, it's past the point of no return, right? So Carmine knows, look, she knows what really happened, and he goes, "You're confused, you're sick. You need to go home right now, and you need to leave before you make a scene." And his tone immediately changes on her, and he tells Oz to drive her back. So I'm gonna pause here.
Yeah. First off, shame on Oz for going down with this. I know he's trying to curry some favor, but you're doing some bad stuff by ratting out Sophia in this nature. Interesting kind of connections here to the party. Is that the cousin from episode 2 who she disses at the party
Yeah,
that
yeah,
we saw again at the start of this?
she's the one with the daughter, Gia.
Yes, exactly. So it was interesting to see how Sophia was treated by her then. Carmine does show his cards early on in the combo just by how defensive he gets. You know what I'm saying? He's menacing during the entire scene. The way he operates, he makes everybody else feel so small, including Sophia in this one. And then he turns it all on her just moments later. I ah, we're gonna see what actually becomes of this, but the fact that he goes down with this, we haven't covered the ride home yet, right?
No, not yet.
I cannot wait to get my teeth into that one.
Okay, so right after Carmine basically sends Sophia home and says, "You're not healthy, you're sick, you need to leave right now," she's obviously pissed at fucking Oz in the car, and she's like, "Why did you snitch on me?" And Oz just says, "Look, I'm just doing my job. That's what your dad pays me for." And Sophia's counter is, look, if you were really doing your job, you would have talked to me first, which is fair. So Oz did betray her at that moment. And then Sophia says, look, you got what you wanted. Now you're on my dad's radar, and everyone you love is on his radar. At this moment, they get stopped by the police, and it is a officer named Kenzie. Uh-oh. So Sophia knows him. They know him. And Kenzie tells Sophia, look, you got to step outside the car. And Sophia's like, this is so stupid. And then all of a sudden, they actually arrest her and they say, you're being charged with the murder of Yolanda Jones, along with, I think, 6 other women, right? So it's like she's being charged with the murder of Yolanda Jones, Taylor Montgomery, Nancy Hoffman, just other women that were murdered before that were working at 44 Below or Iceberg Lounge. And then they also charge her for the murder of Summer Gleeson, right? So that reporter was murdered. So Carmine Falcone moves fucking fast. And they must have just done it. So
yeah, minutes.
Very fresh murder. So Sophia's getting framed. She gets thrown in the car. And Sofia, even Oz is trying to fight for her. He's like, what the fuck is going on? And Sofia tells Oz, call Alberto, call Alberto. And we see that Carmine has already done the press run and planted a ton of evidence on Sofia. So all of the stories throughout Gotham are now basically painting her as guilty, and she is being called the hangman because of all the women that died via hanging. So break that down for us.
You know, occasionally when it comes to the gangster genre, you have some mobsters that are not terrible guys, you know, bad guys, but not sociopaths. Tony Soprano, Tony Soprano, for example. Even if you look at The Wire, I didn't consider Avon to be a sociopath, but then we look at this dude. Carmine is a different kind of cat. He is just playing the law of the jungle right now and trying to bring his defenses in. This was his chosen heir. And in a matter of minutes, he has a whole conspiracy cooked up to pin 7 murders on her. Ruthless efficiency, right? You know everyone's going to fall in line, but it also shows us the level of corruption that exists in Gotham because Carmine has strings pulled in multiple facets of city government. And it's already basically a wrap. Like the public perception has already been determined. There's not really going to be a way out of this.
Yep. Yeah, it's a fucking wrap. And it is crazy that he goes just moments prior, like you said, she was the heir. She was the chosen one. And the second he realizes that she could be a liability, she's done. She's fucking done.
Absolutely. And the other family members, when they even sign, like you're going to talk about in a little bit, they fall in line because they know that by putting her away, there's more power up for grabs in the event she doesn't come back. And also because, like, you don't question Carmine, especially in this kind of a structure.
Right. So then we jump to Sofia being held at the station, and Alberto's actually there for her. And their family lawyer is there. And basically the claim that Carmine is making is that Sofia has a history of mental illness. And as you just alluded to prior, Damon, all of the family members have signed letters basically saying that, yeah, Sofia definitely does have a history of mental illness and she used to kill animals and stuff. So as a result, the ADA, does that stand for Assistant District Attorney, right? I think so.
Yes.
Met with the judge.
Or associate or assistant, yeah.
Right. And the court's ordering a psychological eval and what's it called? Basically, she has to stay in Arkham State Asylum for 6 months and get evaluated before going to trial for these murders. So that just about ruins your life, right? And Alberto is crushed as well. He looks genuinely panicked. He's trying to help her out of this. And Sophia's like, look, if I just kind of do an evaluation and just answer in a way where it's obvious that I'm sane, then I'm good, right? And it's just not that simple. So there's nothing she could do. She is now permanently separated from everyone else. And this lawyer who Sofia thought worked for her is turning her back on Sofia because she works for the family. So Sofia tells Alberto, look, we fucking know that our father is a murderer, right? Like, we know that he's a murderer. And Alberto knows. Like, he doesn't even try to deny it. He knows that their dad is a monster. So Sofia just says, look, you got to help me. I'm not going to survive in Arkham. I'm going to die in there. And Alberto gives her strength. He says, look, it's just 6 months. You can do this. You're strong enough to do this. And at that moment, the police take her away. And there's this crazy scene that we see where she goes into Arkham and they just strip her naked, fucking just basically like assault her, right? Like they strip you naked, they spray you down, they hose you down with like really cold water. They're just probing in and around her mouth, her teeth, her gums, all this stuff. They put her in the inmate gear, and now she is an inmate of Arkham. So I'm gonna pause before we get into what actually goes down at Arkham.
Yeah, the process of her getting the prison intake scene reminds me of in Shawshank when Andy Dufresne is getting deloused and the hose is turned on him and all of that. Just being treated like an animal as she's being locked away. Complete dehumanization. And from what we know about Arkham, based off previous Batman canon, this is not the kind of place where you're just going in to do a little bit and coming on out. This is a kind of place where when you walk in, you do not come out the same way. You've got tons of infamous Batman villains and characters who have done spots in Arkham, and it just never works out, man. The fact that just the simple talk with the journalist, Oz's betrayal, let all these dominoes fly to take her all the way from being air to being in this situation is one of the cruelest and hugest reversals of fate we've ever seen. And this is, I think, one of the reasons that I would put this as probably a top 10 TV episode of the year from what I've seen so far.
Nice. I like that. I like that. Okay, so after they've stripped her naked and put the inmate clothes on her, she is greeted by two doctors. The head doc is Dr. Ventress, chief psychiatrist, and he's going to be the one overseeing her care for the next 6 months. This guy just looks so fucking evil, bro. Yeah. So evil. Immediately evil. And then we see our boy, Dr. Julian Rush. So he is the associate. So he's working under Dr. Ventress, and we see immediately just even with the way Rush looks at Sofia, he looks at her differently than Ventress looks at her. And he's clearly just like, damn, she's pretty fucking hot. Like, that's exactly what's going through his mind right now. I get it, man. I can't blame the guy. But either way, Sofia is going to be evaluated by these two for the next 6 months. No visitors, no outside contact. She's in isolation. So this is not a great start. And she's freaking the fuck out. They then throw her in her cell, and immediately she's got a... Well, actually, let me pause here. Or not pause here, but as she's thrown in her cell, Julian Rush does pay a little visit to her and is just like, hey, get some rest. So he seems like he cares about her. But then that night, she starts talking to her neighbor. Her neighbor actually starts talking to her, I should say. She gets, hears this crazy fucking voice, and she's like, hi, hi. And she looks through, and it is this crazy fucking chick named Magpie. And she's just like, yeah, my stepmom used to call me Margaret too. And just basically implies that like she fucking killed her stepmom or did something really bad. But tough first night for Sofia, and Magpie's like, we could be friends. Like, you're famous. You're Hangman. You're Hangman. So she's already known as a murderer to this entire asylum of insane motherfuckers, and she's freaking the fuck out. First night is brutal. And then we get the customary lunch table scene, right? Like, you can't have any sort of movie or TV show, if you're gonna do the whole prison thing, you have to show the lunchroom. It's just it's part of like prison TV lore. It's always so good because we always know that it's the first day in the lunchroom is when people might fuck with you, and you have to stand up for yourself. Do you want to say anything before I dive into the lunchroom scene?
Yeah, I'll just preface it a little bit. Like you said, man, it's the chain of command. It's how you see who really rules the jungle and who's the person who's got something to prove here, who's top dog. Having mob connections works well in certain gangster genres, in regular prisons, in a mental institution where you don't have people on the inside. This makes you more of a target than anything, especially with how publicized her case is. You talked about people already calling her the Hangman. This is only going to escalate from here.
Yep, and I want to say that having mob ties is great if you're on good terms with your mob when you go into jail. But she is on bad terms, so now all of that power that her family has is going to be used against her, and she has no one helping her out. So she pulls up, she's walking, and her cell neighbor Magpie is like, Sofia, come sit down here. Come sit with me. Hangman, it's me. And even as she's walking, everyone in the caf is already looking at her, and they're like, new girl, new girl. She's obviously very famous already. So Sofia sits next to Magpie, and Magpie says, look, Dr. Ventress says it's good that I make friends. And then in the middle, she gets a dose of this drug. We got to imagine that this is like the precursor to Bliss, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just the first version of Bliss. So that drug immediately puts Magpie in such a great state. And so Magpie's like, if you're good, they'll give you more of this drug. So I'm good, and they'll give me more of this drug. And then at that moment, Sofia notices this inmate that isn't chained, and this inmate is fucking terrifying. She starts pulling up to Sofia right away and just says, you killed those girls, you killed those girls. That seems to really bother this inmate. And she starts just getting aggressive with Sofia and basically just beats the shit out of her, right? Like just stomps her out, knocks her out. And then Sofia wakes up in her cell to Dr. Julian Rush pulling up, and he's like, I heard you had an incident in the mess hall today. And Sophia's like, yeah, I got the shit kicked out of me. What are you talking about? And she's wondering why this inmate was unchained. And Julian Rush is like, really? Unchained? You think that was a coordinated attack on you? Is that what you're saying? And Sofia immediately just cuts through the bullshit and just says, look, I know how you're trying to phrase everything and make it seem like I'm paranoid. It is what it is. Someone had to have set her free, right? And we also find out that Sophia's been in therapy before, probably due to, or actually because of the death of her mom. So that's already put her in therapy. And Sofia calls out the whole operation. She just says, look, my dad is the one basically pulling the strings right now. You guys are going to make me look bad, make me look guilty. There's nothing I can do. And then we get this crazy scene. I didn't understand this at all. This seemed like just odd to me, but they basically bring her for a one-on-one meeting with the inmate that assaulted her, and everyone's just watching. And I don't know if Julian Rush is there for this. I don't think he's there for this, right?
I don't think he's there for this.
Right. So the guards hand Sofia a fork, and that fork is meant for her to basically stab this inmate to death, and they chain the inmate to one of the tables. So she's basically a sitting duck, and it's kind of implied that, hey, Sofia, you can go get revenge and kill her right now. So we see Dr. Ventress here. He's overseeing all of this. The inmate is talking shit to Sofia, basically saying, come on, come get me. And Sofia doesn't want to attack the inmate because she knows what the whole thing is, right? The whole setup is to just make her look crazy, make her look angry. But in that moment, the inmate attacks her, grabs the fork, and then while she has like the upper hand, she kind of begs Sofia to end her own life. She's like, come end it. Come end it. Basically telling Sofia, come kill me. And when Sofia doesn't do it, she just starts stabbing herself in the throat and kills herself. And then we get a series of just torture scenes, right? Like they basically, what they're doing every day is just putting her into shock therapy, right? It's like, and Dr. Rush is involved in this too. They're putting her in shock therapy, essentially, I'm guessing, Damon, until she stops saying that she's innocent, right? Like that's kind of the implication.
Yeah, this one is a whole roller coaster, man. Starting from when she gets initially assaulted in the cafeteria, that was a creepy scene where you just see that girl walking around and she's like, how is she not chained? How is she not chained? You know it's not going to end well. The way when she talks through this to Rush and he's just like, I don't know, we're looking into it, doesn't inspire a whole lot of confidence. Like, this episode is essentially Sofia being gaslit into insanity for 45 minutes, which is a crazy switch up because we're used to seeing her so powerful and dominating every scene that she's in. And here she's powerless, and that take no shit attitude doesn't really pay off for her. They even try to play on her desire for revenge when they try to give her the fork because they're setting her up, like you said. It's just a diabolical move. When she gets put into the electric shock treatment, pretty visceral portrayals of mental illness leading up to that. And then we get kind of a One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest vibe with all the electroshock and just non-consensual treatments going down, because ECT treatments can actually cause psychosis if they're done enough on someone who's not actually in need of them. So what goes down after this is actually pretty realistic.
Yeah, because there's scenes while she's getting tortured by shock that she's in her cell and she's peeling off the wallpaper, right? And there's stuff underneath, but we don't know if that's actually real or not.
Yeah, they're playing at that, and it's not real, but we think it's real, and it's like we are in the driver's seat all episode with her when she's going down this rabbit hole. There are shades of so many things that we've seen before here, from like Alice in Wonderland to even that One Piece episode where they have that girl who they're like making her sick the whole time when they're trying to free her. I forget which episode it
Oh
is,
yeah,
but
yeah, that episode was fucking crazy.
there are so many things that this triggered for me, and just an excellent way to wrap it all up and put it together.
Also, there's a moment right when we're going through this torture montage. Basically, this is what's happening for the next 6 months of her life. That Dr. Julian Rush actually asked the head doc, Ventress, like, hey, what if she's telling the truth? Like, what if she really is innocent? Because the entire time while they're trying to break her, she won't say that I'm guilty. She keeps saying I'm innocent, I'm innocent. So there comes a point where Julian Rush is like, why, like, what if she's telling the truth? And Ventress is like, yo, watch your fucking mouth, bro. Like, don't you ever say something like that again. And
We're gonna put you in the chair next.
yeah, it's like, dude, shut the fuck up. You don't want any of this smoke. And Rush is like, all right, I'll stop.
I got you. I got you.
Yeah. So then we have another vision, like a psychotic vision where she's older now. She's in Arkham and she's walking in on her mom hanging from the ceiling. So, but then she looks up and it's actually her hanging from the ceiling, and she wakes up. So her nightmares, where she's having the nightmares of hanging and stuff like that, which we saw, I think, in episode 1 or 2, are all because of this. So finally, Sofia gets a visitor, right? So I think this is the last day of her 6-month stint, and it's her brother, Alberto, and he's got terrible news to deliver, right? He tells Sofia that you're actually not even going to get a trial. And Sofia's like, what the fuck? And Alberto says, your doctor, Ventress, he's claiming that you're unfit to stand trial. And it's obvious that Ventress is controlled by Carmine. And so Ventress writes the report that Sofia can't stand fit for trial. The judge agrees. It's done. She is not getting a trial. She's going directly to Arkham. That is fucking crazy, by the way. So
yeah, just a total subversion of all due legal process.
yeah, so no trial at all for her, and she immediately is just like, all right, it's over for me. There's nothing I can do. And she just has this defeated little half smile, and Alberto's panicking because he genuinely cares about his sister, but he doesn't know what to do. So he's just like, tell me what to do, because Sofia's been the one who's kind of been given the ideas and been the smarter one. And Alberto vows to her, look, I'm going to get you out of here one day. And Sofia just kind of walks out. And we see a flashback, or not a flashback, but we see the second lunchroom scene. I mean, this is how these prison type of episodes go, right? Like, you get the first lunchroom scene where you kind of get taken advantage of, right? Like, you get dominated as the new inmate, and then you got to come back and get your lick back, right? So Sofia goes and sits right next to Magpie, and Magpie seems super cheerful that Sofia is going to stay here now. She's like, great, now we can be friends. And then Magpie says something where she's like, hey, Sofia, they'll give you candy now if you just if you just you don't have to lie to Dr. V anymore. And just that slip up lets Sofia know that Magpie has been spying on her on behalf of Dr. V, right? So it's kind of weird where Sofia's probably saying all of these things to Magpie as her cell neighbor, and they could have just made up shit anyways, but I guess they're trying to use like somewhat real evidence, right, to try to pin it on Sofia. Like, they didn't need to do all that, but either way, Sofia finds out that Magpie's been spying on her, relaying all of her personal stories and things that she's saying to Dr. V. He's probably putting these in his notes, and it's helping build a case that Sofia is like actually batshit crazy. And we see that Magpie's entire act is exposed in this moment, and she's like, no, like, what are you talking about? I'm your friend. Now we can celebrate holidays. And Sofia just goes nuts and fucking bashes her head in and kills her. Fucking awesome scene. And then she yells at everyone, says, I told you I'm fucking innocent, and actually yells directly at Ventress, and obviously they put her down and knock her out. So I am going to pause there because that is the end of the flashback of Sofia's time in Arkham. We're going to get more, I hope, in the future on like how she actually got out of Arkham, but this is basically her first 6 months in Arkham.
She finally just takes the wheel and says, "You know what? If you're going to treat me like a psycho, I might as well act like one." This seems like the manifestation of just all the hopelessness that she has to endure while she is at Arkham. This episode is just super anxiety riddled in a certain way. Like watching this with my girlfriend, her exact comment when Sophia got injected was, "I feel like I just took those drugs watching all of this happen." Like you're
Mm.
right there with her the whole time it goes down. But she's been betrayed time and time again. It's almost like if you were to keep a tracker going, like if we made a video on this, she's probably betrayed 14 or 15 different times in this episode. So you can see why she would be paranoid and like catch on so quickly to all of this. This is the process that sharpens all of the instincts that she uses in the present day.
Yeah, that is well put. So we now jump to present day, and this is right after Sophia called for Dr. Rush to basically come help her. This is right after Vic saved Oz's ass from getting capped by Nadia, all of that. So turns out Sophia passed out, and Rush pulled up and basically just let her crash at his spot. And Rush has a nice little office. He's got a nice little office, and he's like, "Look, you could take a bath upstairs, and I gotta change the clothes, all of these things." And as Rush leaves to go grab some things, Sophia notices that Rush has been taking some drugs to numb himself as well. So this is interesting to her. And when Julian Rush comes back, she basically just rants to him and is just like you had just said, look, Oz, I should have killed Oz. I knew he was going to betray me. Everything in my body told me he was going to betray me, and I still listened. And all of you men, all you guys have done is just betray me in my life. And if I'm not on a plane to Sicily tomorrow, then my uncle's probably going to kill me too. And Rush tells her, look, maybe you should go to Sicily. Just do it for yourself, right? You've just gotten out of Arkham, and you deserve a fresh start. So Rush actually means well, and Sophia is just kind of looking through him the entire time because she knows that he's only treating her this way because he lusts after her. So he cares about her because he's lusting after her. We also find out that hold on, I should we also find out that at some point in the 10 years that Rush was at Gotham, he either quit or like it's like he says, "Oh, I left because I was done," but it's kind of implied that he might have quit, right? Like he probably was just not cool with what the fuck was going on down there, so
Yeah.
he walked away from working in Arkham. But Sophia says, "Look, I know that a part of you misses it. Like a part of you misses having power over me, being able to help rehab me, and also getting to see me naked. And that's why you've been taking these drugs to numb yourself as punishment." And he's just like, "No." He's like, "That's not true."
Question mark.
Yeah, he's like, that's absurd. And then she gets really close to him. It's kind of a hot scene, I'm not gonna lie. And they get real close to each other. And but she tells Rush, like, "Look, I'm not sick. You're not sick. The world is sick." Yeah, and that's basically it. She just storms out and gives this creepy fucking smile. "I deserve a fresh start," and then she walks away. We don't know what she's about to do. I'm gonna pause here.
I get what she's saying, but she might be a little sick as well. How can she ever have a healthy relationship with anybody after all that? She can't. It's impossible. Even though that Rush has tried to help her out, he's like a memory of the past that's connected to a terrible, terrible time in her life. So she's gonna be triggered, obviously, especially after coming back from that. All of the rage that she built up over the past decade has to go somewhere. And she's bound to be paranoid forever as well, as she should be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Her against the world motto, like, damn, that was a nice little mic drop there. The soundtrack also works wonders here as we transition into the dinner scene. Like, you know, some shit is going down and that she's far from finished.
Yep. So now we cut to the dinner scene. I think it's just like a regular family dinner or something, right? At the Falcone estate. And or maybe they're celebrating a birthday for Luca or something, right? Like we don't know specifically what it is, but it seems like everyone is there for a celebration, and no one is expecting Sofia to pull up, right? She clearly was not invited, so she pulls up late, makes a scene. We also see Carla and Gia there, her daughter. So the entire crew is there, right? Like Milos and Johnny Vidia there, everyone's there, Luca's there, etc. So Sophia pulls up, makes a scene, and Johnny fills her glass with a ton of wine. Side note, I almost Uber Eats ordered some wine while we were doing this stream. I just wasn't able to finesse it before my time was up, but I could really use a glass of wine. But either way, Johnny V's like, what the fuck are you doing, right? And Sofia is just trying to play everything off like, oh, it's no big deal. Like, I'm just chilling. And what's it called? Luca gives this speech about, hey, tensions are high right now. Like, we're under, our families are we got to be strong, blah, blah, blah. And Gia likes Sofia. So Sofia and Gia are actually having a good time. Sofia's making these crazy faces, and Gia's laughing, finding it funny. And Carlo's like, no, don't do that. Either way, Sofia then she interrupts her uncle's toast and is like, yeah, I'd like to give a toast. So she gets up and starts giving a toast and says, look, the last time I saw all of you guys was 10 years ago at my father's birthday. Oh, and by the way, you guys all signed letters basically saying that I'm fucking crazy, so you guys fucked me over, right? And Carla tries to leave, and Sofia's like, nope, you got to stay. And Carla does say, look, Gia, you have to leave. And Sofia's like, yeah, Gia doesn't need to hear this. So Gia does actually go off to bed, and Sofia calls everyone out for basically helping her father frame her for the murder of 7 women. And she says every single woman's name. I'm going to go through it this one time just out of respect for these fake victims. But Summer Gleeson, Taylor Montgomery, Yolanda Jones, Susanna Weekly, Devry Blake, Trisha Becker. These names are absurd. Nancy Hoffman. My God. Okay, so these are the victims. Sofia recites them all. She's like, yeah, they deserve to be heard. And then I thought Sofia was going to do something even crazier at this moment, but she kind of just tearfully tells everyone, look, I'm clearly not part of this family anymore. I'm innocent. You guys all fucked me over, and you guys are all anxious to get me out of this family. So tomorrow I am starting a new life. So this is probably very relieving to everyone at the dinner tables. They believe that Sofia is just going to leave and walk away and not be in their lives anymore. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's the solution that they probably land on towards the end of this. I thought it was a nice touch to have her in a similarly colored dress to the one that she wore the night that she got sent away. She is definitely not here to be chill. You can tell from the second she walks in. Even when she is eating at the table and Gia is laughing, she's eating with her hands again during the beginning of the speech, which is a definite callback to what we've seen her do a couple other times in public. She's adopted an almost Joker-like vibe throughout the scene, the way that she's toying with everybody around her and doesn't really give a shit what they think because the time for that's well long past, right? It's funny when everyone's rolling their eyes and shit, but it's like, no, she should get a chance to say her piece. She did a decade in Arkham, like Johnny Vitti. You take a seat. I think it's kind of a big theme of the episode that she's realized her family never actually cared for her, especially when push came to shove. It was never actually a family. It was all a power play to fall in line behind Carmine. So even though she was a much better person back in the day, that just never served her well, especially around these people. So the naivety is gone and replaced with something else.
Yes. So later on that night, Sofia manages to lure, like, I don't know how she necessarily does it, but basically she gets Gia to meet up with her, right? So she's like, Gia, because I think Gia mentioned something about wanting cake at dinner, right? Like, Gia's like, I can't wait to have cake. And Sofia's like, yeah, you want cake? Like, let's have a sleepover. So Sofia gets Gia out of the house, and she's like, yeah, we're going to have cake. And they go to this greenhouse that they have, which is fucking sick. So they go to this nice little greenhouse. They kind of have this little cake session, and Sofia's like, yeah, me and Alberto used to sleep here when we were little. We'd pretend this place was a jungle, all of that, and we should sleep here tonight. And Gia's like, maybe I should go back upstairs and go to bed. My mom told me not to talk to you. But Sofia's like, why? And Gia says, look, it's because she says you did bad things. And Sofia says, I did do bad things. When I was in Arkham, I had to do bad things to survive. My father locked me away in a dungeon, so I had to fight. And this explanation is cool with Gia. So Gia's like, hey, will I survive? And Sofia's like, I'm going to make sure you're never going to have to fight any monsters. Just go to sleep. So Gia is asleep. The night passes. The next morning, they're playing this awesome, like, what is it, like 60s music? Do you know the song that they
Yeah.
were playing? I'm not sure, but it was a great fucking sound, like great song. And Sofia gets up and she starts walking inside the house, and we see that everyone in the house is fucking dead via monoxide poisoning. So while everyone was asleep, Sofia went in the basement and basically fucked around with the heat, right, or something, like fucked around with the gas, like just unplug something. So gas was just spreading throughout the entire house. She's walking in with a gas mask, and so she'll be fine. And she then shuts off the gas finally, opens the windows so the house can air out, and we see just Milos's dead body. Let's see, it cuts here. I'm guessing that's Carla, right? Carla's dead,
Yeah.
along with her husband. So it is kind of savage because she just killed Gia's mother. Let's make that clear. Then she, I just don't want that fact to be lost, right? Like, this was a great Sofia fucking episode. I think she's awesome. The actress is crushing it, right? But Sofia is a complicated character. She opens more of the doors. We kind of see. I think we see. I think this blonde woman must be Luca's wife, right, or something.
Yeah, I think so. The one who was hooking up with VD, right?
Yeah. I forget her name, but she's fucking dead. Luca's fucking dead, and for some reason VD's alive. Maybe he was lucky he just had his window open, right? Like that. It doesn't seem like she planned to keep him alive, right? Or maybe she did. What'd you think about that?
I was honestly shocked that anybody was still alive. It seems like she has a way of getting everything and planning things out meticulously, so I'm not sure what could have made that happen or if it was just by chance. When this first started and she was taking Gia out to the greenhouse, I was like, "Oh, Jesus, she's about to kill Gia or
Yeah, I
like
thought, or like
something."
kidnap her or some shit. Yeah,
It was like, "Oh, Sophia, come on." But then when she gives the line about like the locked away in a dungeon and she had to fight monsters and that Gia would be safe forever, it was like, "Oh no. She's going to do something to try and make Gia like her daughter. Like she's about to do something like that." I like how when she woke up, when the dawn light comes into the greenhouse, you see the scars that she had from Arkham on her shoulder and on her neck are super clear. Really good lighting choice, really well planned and everything. But the fact that she just gassed everybody, I did not see that coming. She's a mastermind. Respect the fact that she did save Gia because Gia, not only, she's a kid, so that would have been pretty messed up, but she was the only one who gave her the time of day. Um, the revenge arc that she ties together on her family is like, it's so poetic.
yeah,
Now we have a very, very different landscape moving forward.
yeah. And so it ends basically with Sophia grabbing Johnny V's gun, and VD survived because his window just happened to be open. And maybe she meticulously planned this out, but either way, VD wakes up. Sophia's got the gun, and she just says, "We need to talk." So put your pants on, Johnny. We need to talk. Episode fucking ends. Fire episode. What thoughts did you have overall?
I thought that we were just going to get an explanation. For example, like I thought her waking up from the flashback was going to be the end of the episode. So the fact that we got this small, like efficient 2 or 3 scenes after she wakes up and it changes the whole game is just fantastic writing in general. Now Oz is a little off the hook, but now he's like not off the hook whatsoever because he was going to have to clean up a shit ton of mess with the Falcone family after this. Now, the fact that Sophia's in the driver's seat, the family has gotten way smaller, but now she is the unquestioned leader. And Vidi's going to fall in line behind her because he has to. There's no other choice unless she kills him immediately.
Yep.
So she has the controls now for all the resources of the family. She has the plan. She is the more legitimate connect. So when they go back to the triad and they talk about what they're going to push, the triad is going to respect the hell out of the Falcone family stamp way more than they're going to respect whatever Oz is going to be offering as his part of the deal. So I think Oz has a lot more problems on his plate now, but Sophia is also going to have to answer for this somehow. Like I'm not sure how this is going to get played off.
Yes. And I also like how last episode I was like, why did they leave Sofia? Why did Oz leave Sofia? And then we see at the beginning of this episode it's because he's already been exposed as a fucking backstabber. So at that point, he's just like, all right, that relationship is already cooked, so we gotta fucking leave her. So yeah, we'll see what episode 5 brings and how Oz gets his ass out of this. We'll be back to stream this next Sunday night. Appreciate everyone for watching. We will catch y'all later.
Later.